Hello everyone, welcome to Frame Rate Factory, where every frame matters. Today I've got a very special video for all of you budget ballers. We're going to test 4 times multi-frame generation on my GTX 1660 Super. Yes, you heard that right. Even GTX graphics cards can now use multi-frame generation through a software called UPSCALEIT. So the big question is, can this actually transform older GPUs into smooth gaming machines? Or is it just another gimmick? Let's find out. First, let's download the software. I put the link in the description below. After downloading the software, simply extract the compressed file and launch it. Once it's open, head over to the DLSS enabler section. You should see your installed games listed there. One quick disclaimer, I haven't tested this on multiple games yet, so I can't guarantee it'll work with every title. Your mileage may vary. With that out of the way, click Quick Install on Black Myth Wukong. The software will automatically install the required DLSS files into the game. Once the installation is complete, you can close the software and launch Black Myth Wukong. After launching the game, you'll notice that the DLSS option is now available in the graphics settings. Let's start by establishing a baseline. I'm using the medium preset with frame generation disabled and DLAA at 100% resolution scaling. With these settings, we're getting between 40 and 55 frames per second, depending on the scene. Performance isn't particularly impressive at these settings, but the game is still playable. However, there's definitely room for improvement. Now let's lower the DLSS resolution, scaling to 80%, which is actually slightly higher than the standard DLSS quality preset. With this change alone, we're now consistently staying above 60 frames per second, with only occasional drops into the 50s during more demanding scenes. For the most part, performance sits comfortably in the mid to high 60s. At this point, the game is already very enjoyable to play, but that's not the reason we made this video. We're here to see if we can achieve the kind of crazy frame rates normally reserved for the latest RTX graphics cards by using multi-frame generation. So let's turn it on and see what happens. Now it's time to enable 2 times multi-frame generation and see just how much of a performance boost we can get. Right away, FPS jumps to somewhere between 90 and 100 FPS, which is a huge improvement over our baseline. Honestly, the game feels incredibly smooth at this point, since our native performance was already above 60 frames per second. Before enabling frame generation, I can't notice any meaningful increase in input latency during gameplay. But we're not stopping yet. Let's see just how far we can push the GTX 1660 Super with 4 times multi-frame generation. Now let's push things even further by enabling 4 times multi-frame generation while keeping the resolution scaling at 100%. I wanted to see if we could rely on frame generation alone without using any upscaling and still get a smooth experience. The results are honestly impressive. FPS now sits between 120 and 130 FPS throughout most of the benchmark. At this point, you can start to feel a slight increase in input latency, especially if you're playing with a keyboard and mouse and making quick camera movements. Even so, the gameplay still feels incredibly smooth, and I had no problem enjoying the game. Personally, I'd recommend using a controller and capping your frame rate to 120 frames per second. That gives you a very consistent experience while maintaining excellent image quality without relying on upscaling. Next, I lowered the resolution scaling to 90% to see if we could comfortably stay above 120 frames per second. Unfortunately, there are still a few demanding areas where performance drops below 120 frames per second. However, for the majority of the gameplay, FPS stays between 110 and 130 frames per second, which is still an excellent result considering this is an Unreal Engine 5 title. Even during this boss fight, where I was fighting for my life, I didn't notice any significant input delay or latency. The gameplay remained smooth and responsive throughout. So if you're using a GTX 1660 Super, you can absolutely enjoy the game at these settings while getting a surprisingly high frame rate and maintaining excellent image quality. Finally, I wanted to try my optimized settings to see just how much performance we could squeeze out of the GTX 60 Super, while still maintaining great image quality. If you'd like to try these settings yourself, you can pause the video and copy everything shown on screen. For this test, I'm using 4x multi-frame generation with 85% resolution scaling. The results honestly exceeded my expectations. We're now comfortably above 170 frames per second for most of the gameplay, with performance occasionally reaching as high as 190 frames per second. These are frame rates you would never expect from a GTX graphics card, especially in a demanding Unreal Engine 5 title like Black Myth Wukong. It's genuinely impressive how much smoother the experience becomes with this mod, while still keeping the game looking surprisingly good. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you decide to try this mod, let me know in the comments which graphics card you're using and how much FPS you're getting. I'm really curious to see how it performs across different hardware. I'll also be testing this mod in other games to find out where it works best, so stay tuned for more videos. If you enjoyed this benchmark, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Framerate Factory. It really helps support the channel and motivates me to keep making more benchmarks, optimization guides, and performance mods. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.